Dylan Cease is a pitcher that the Chicago Cubs are fairly familiar with and is somebody that they could potentially be going after this offseason to bolster up that starting pitching lineup. Do we think that Dylan Cease is somebody that we want on the team? Let's talk about it and then some. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones, here once again to talk with you all about Chicago Cubs Central. And again, we're in the off season, so the episodes are a little bit more laxed, but we are going to talk about none other than Dylan Cease on this episode. So before I get to that, though, hey, I need you to do me a favor. If you're enjoying this content that you're viewing, I need you to go ahead and hit that like button, that share button, and that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Listen, subscribers make the world go around right now, and you don't want to miss a single second of what we got going on over here on Chicago Cubs Central, the channel for you if you're a Chicago Cub fan, or if you're just a baseball enthusiast that wants to talk different baseball topics. We're right here on Chicago Cubs Central. Come on over and talk with us about the Chicago Cubs. Remember, thank you for making this your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Also, shout out to everybody that's on Apple, that's on Spotify, that's on Twitch, that's on X, that's tuning in. Also, can't forget you guys. Make sure that you are following the channel so you don't miss a single bit of the action. Now, that being said, guys, Dylan Cease is somebody that the Chicago Cubs are all too familiar with, somebody that we have had many conversations with. He actually was in our organization, traded him to the White Sox. Now, apparently, the Chicago Cubs are looking at potentially wanting Dylan Cease back. He has been pitching for the Padres. And again, we look at Dylan Cease and we see somebody that can be a front end starter for the Chicago Cubs. And he is somebody that is able to get a lot of swing and miss, generate a lot of swing and miss with his pitches. Now, with that being said, we want someone to be careful with Dylan Cease because he does also have the tendency to give up the home run ball. But with the way Wrigley Field has played this year, he might be in for a killer season if he did sign with the Chicago Cubs. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, I want to look at the snapshot of his stats. So in 2025, with the San Diego Padres, he had an 8-12 win-loss record. He had a 4.55 ERA with 215 strikeouts. That's a big number right there. And then 1.33 WHIP. Now, the strikeout rate for Dylan Cease remains elite, guys. It's something definitely that we want to point out here. And the Chicago Cubs really don't have a lot of swing and miss type pitchers. We have a lot of guys that either pitch to soft contact or a lot of fly ball pitchers, but we don't have anybody that has the swing and miss capability like a Dylan Cease. So with that being said, even though he is inconsistent, I am full on a believer after what I saw Tommy Hotovy do with Matthew Boyd last season, that he could potentially put Dylan Cease into position to have a killer year for the Chicago Cubs. So he earned in 2025 $13.75 million, and now he is entering into free agency. That's right. This man is a free agent, so he's free to go out, and him and his agent, and they're able to go out and make a deal with whoever team they want to. So, again, analysts suggest his next deal could be somewhere within the $100 million range, depending on teams' risk tolerance. It also, I think, you should take into account another thing. You should take into account, where does Dylan Cease want to play? Now, I think that playing at Wrigley Field to a lot of pitchers should look very advantageous. Albeit you'll have 2 months where it's super duper stupid hot and the ball will be flying out the ballpark. But you begin the season for the first 3 months of the year, as we saw this past season, in a ballpark where the wind is blowing completely in, and you have literally everything's pretty much either ground balls or flyouts, or you're striking them out. So to me, if you're a pitcher in general, you're going to hear me say this a lot this offseason. If you're a pitcher in general, you're looking at the Chicago Cubs, you're looking at Wrigley Field as an advantageous place to pitch half your games, because you go there and you're like, man, like, dude, I can strike everybody out here. I can fly, I could get flyouts and everything like that. Now on the road, it'll be a little bit different. But at the same time, you look at this and you say to yourself, Dylan Cease is somebody that can absolutely thrive playing for the Chicago Cubs. You also want to look at the fact that Dylan Cease is coming into what should be his best contract year. So he is going to be looking to make some money. So when I look at Dylan Cease, I look at someone that could range somewhere in the contract zone of potentially about 2 years. I would be willing to offer him 2 to 3 years in roughly around the $20 to $25 million range. I mean, I do think he's worth that. I do think that he helps bolster your lineup. I do think that he helps, this starting pitching rotation, takes, again, the pressure off of Jameson Taillon, takes the pressure off of Matthew Boyd, takes the pressure off of Shota Imanaga, and allows the Chicago Cubs to be able to have another arm that they know can go out there and get strikeouts. Now, the question here is, what will he do? Again, he's a high strikeout. And that shows that he does still have elite stuff. But the problem is he's inconsistent. And this is why we don't believe the Padres are going to offer another deal for him. He's shown such inconsistency. Again, his ERA and his whip both show that he is very inconsistent sometimes with how he pitches. And again, you have the upside of him, which is you look at that strikeout rate and you say, man, like, this dude could really, really benefit this club. But then you look at, his ERA and his whip and you say, man, but if he's off, it's going to be terrible. And and that's really honestly been the story of Dylan Cease in Chicago when he played for the White Sox, when he pitched for the White Sox. I mean, it was the same deal, and but he was a little bit more elite for the White Sox than I think he was when he played for San Diego. But again, like I said, I have more faith, more than having faith in Dylan Cease. I have faith in what our pitching lab can do. I think our pitching lab has shown us that they are able to do what needs to be done to make the Chicago Cubs successful and make pitchers when they come here successful. So if I'm a pitcher, I'm looking at Wrigley, I'm looking at the pitching lab, I'm looking at our team, and I'm saying, man, I could really come here and really, really, really be able to stake my claim as one of the best. So in my eyes, I think Dylan Cease should look at Wrigley as a perfect fit, but how should the Chicago Cubs look at Dylan Cease and how he fits in with the team? We'll talk about that right after these messages.
I have been talking ad nauseum, and I still will continue to talk about the product, the brand that has changed my life and can change yours too. What's that product? It's Dubby. It's an all-natural energy supplement that you can take on the daily to help you get through those urges, those moments when you want to nap, then when you hit the cliff, or if you had a long night the night before and need to get through another crazy day of the hustle and bustle, the 9 to 5, whatever you got going on. Dubby is your energy drink. That's right. Not to mention, when you buy a container of Dubby, it actually equals out to almost $1 per drink. You can mix it in with whatever you want, whether that be a juice, whether that be a water, whether that be some type of other energy flavored drink, whatever you want, you can mix Dubby with it and it will do the trick for you. Guys, I don't understand what you're waiting on. Dubby takes care of everything for you. All you have to do is go on to the Dubby website and place your order. And at this time, when you do that, all you have to do is put in Cubs Central Pod 2024. That's right, Cubs Central Pod 2024. And you get 10% off on your Dubby order. That's right. Listen, guys, I'm telling you right now, Jitterless Energy. It's they have all different types of different flavors for you. Dubby has what you need. Be better with Dubby.
So we also want to look at how Dylan Cease fits into the Chicago Cubs. So we already know that Dylan Cease should consider Chicago one of his prime spots that he should want to go and pitch at, right? But how does how should the Chicago Cubs look at him? So again, we already know, we've talked about it. The Chicago Cubs rotation needs durability, it needs strikeouts, and it needs someone who can be a difference maker. Now, does Dylan Cease fit all those areas? Most of them, yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of inconsistency there, but Cease offers a high strikeout profile, which fits the team pitching to a T. It fits what we need. Again, like I told you in the opening segment, we have a bunch of pitchers on our team that pitch to contact or pitch to for fly ball outs. But we need somebody that is a strikeout getter. And again, his ability to strike guys out, his swing and miss is almost like an art form with how he's able to get pitchers out. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And when he's on, guys, he's dang near unhittable. And we have to take into account also that the Chicago Cubs do have prior connection to Dylan Cease because they drafted him originally. And again, that adds a lot of narrative value to things for him to come back to Chicago, to be able to meet with Jed, to be able to meet with Tommy Hotovy, to be able to meet with Craig, and to be able to come back to the Chicago Cubs, the team that eventually traded him to the White Sox, and see, you know, if there could be a potential for them to join forces and do something special next year. And again, I do believe that there is an opportunity for that. So, I mean, I just think it's all about what Dylan Cease would like to do. So, again, you have to look at, if you're a Chicago Cubs, just say, man, this dude has some elite strikeout capabilities. His potential, he has a very good potential to bounce back here in Chicago and have an all-star type season. He has the potential. I'm telling you guys, there are so many pitchers right now that are looking at what Matthew Boyd just did and saying to themselves, I wonder if I could get in their lab and do the same thing. Don't discount what Matthew Boyd did and how they're going to be able to use that in negotiation with some of these pitchers that are high-profile pitchers that just have had slumps. And again, knowing the weather and how that's played into effect, especially the first 3 months of the season, there are a lot of guys and a lot of players out there that would love to have the type of season that Matthew Boyd just had for the Chicago Cubs. So, again, it's also a risk factor when you're looking at Dylan Cease, though, because his 2025 numbers show that there is risk there. A expensive contract. He probably will end up being an expensive contract. And you got to also take into account his age and the control considerations. Again, if I'm looking at offering Dylan Cease a contract, I'm not doing anything above maybe 3 years of a deal for him. And the highest I would go is maybe $30 million. But that's going to be with some team options in it too. Like a team option after the first year and probably a player option after the second year. It just depends on if he starts showing consistency. And again, Cubs, what do you want to be? That's going to be an overlaying topic that we have to talk about all offseason. Where do the Cubs want to be? So pretty much, Kyle Tucker is pretty much gone. He has wiped clean his social medias of anything Chicago Cubs, anything of him with a Chicago Cubs jersey on. It's all back to just regular Kyle Tucker stuff because he is now in contract negotiations. And they're gearing up for an offseason for contract negotiation. So everything's been wiped clean off his socials. And again, it's all about now, okay, who wants to sign the contract for me? Who wants to offer me the best deal? So with that being said, you look at that and you say to yourself, okay, Cubs, who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Are you in win now mode? Or are you wait and see mode? If you're wait and see mode, just call up Jackson Wiggins halfway through the year. Pitch with what you got. Call up Jackson Wiggins halfway through the year and see what he is. If you're in wait and see mode, but if you're in win now mode, this is the type of pitcher that you go get. You go get a Dylan Cease, somebody that's going to offer availability to get strikeouts. So again, we'll just see what happens. And to me, I just happen to think that Dylan Cease is one of those guys that puts you in win now mode, but you can't just get Dylan Cease though. You got to go get Dylan Cease and somebody else. I like his stuff, but he is very vulnerable to the home run ball and to giving up hits if his stuff isn't working right for him. Again, the alternative here, you have a couple of options for deals for Dylan Cease. You can offer him 4 to 5 years between 80 to 110 million with opt-outs, incentives, or the alternative is a 3-year prove-it deal with the lower AAV with the club option for a 4th year. And again, can the Cubs realistically commit, given the payroll farm system and the other needs that they have, can they realistically commit to giving Dylan Cease this type of contract? That's really where we're at with things, is can the Chicago Cubs afford a Dylan Cease? Like, yes, obviously I know the Chicago Cubs can afford a Dylan Cease. Are they willing to give him that type of contract? It's always been this thing where the Chicago Cubs just are, not really willing to make these type of offers and deals with higher profile guys. Like I said, remember the most expensive contract the Chicago Cubs have signed outside of Jason Hayward is Dansby Swanson, $177 million. So again, you're putting Dylan Cease up there with one of these deals. If you were the Chicago Cubs GM, would you offer Cease 5 years, $100 million, or 3 years, $60 million? Like I said, let me know your thoughts below. Comment below. The years, the total money, and the risk level, if it's acceptable or not to offer them that type of deal. I want you guys to get involved in the conversation below about Dylan Cease. Again, like I said, Dylan Cease is a high upside but high risk type of player. The Cubs fit makes sense, but at the same time, they also have to know that he's going to bounce back. And again, I believe that he can bounce back and have an amazing year for the Chicago Cubs, an all-star type season for the Chicago Cubs. I'm not going to say Cy Young. I will say all-star type level season for the Chicago Cubs. So would you rather the Cubs spend that money on a pitcher like Cease, or would you rather that money be spent elsewhere with other resources? Let me know your thoughts below. Listen, guys, I appreciate you guys so much for all of your commitment to watching the shows, to commenting below. I hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. Once again, this is your #1 spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Until next time, go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.